We're ready with our special address, and the topic is new staffing strategies for a diverse and inclusive workforce. Introducing the Chief Human Resource Officer and Head, Foundation Landmark Group India, that is Mr. Sandeep Batra, to please begin the session. Presenting Mr. Sandeep Batra.
Thank you, Ankita. I'm sorry, I will be able to crunch. I'll be crunching my time because we are running a bit late on this one. But thank you for the opportunity. I will straight away jump into the subject. This whole subject of staffing for building a diverse, inclusive workforce has been spoken since long, and all of us have been grappling with, and I'm sure every organization is doing its own bit in terms of putting some strategy, some initiative, some action plan. The moot point here is that not one particular initiative, not one particular strategy really works. It's the combination of a strategy and, very importantly, a culture and sustainability of those initiatives what really makes the whole difference. And before I deep dive into what I'm talking about, I think the whole benefit of having a diverse and inclusive workforce have been really seen in greater depth by the organizations. Not only companies with diverse management teams have got 19% higher revenues. This is all research-based data that I'm sharing with you. Diverse companies are 1.7 times more likely to be innovation leaders in their market segments. And then, of course, a large proportion of CEOs have said that having diverse workforce always improves their bottom lines. And for that matter, even when we talk to prospective candidates for taking opportunities in our organizations, a whopping 40% also talk about that inclusiveness is something which they always take into account when they take up career opportunities with companies. And hence, there is a very clear business case which emerges in front of us in terms of why this is required. Now, to me, this whole agenda of building a diverse and inclusive workforce has got three parts to it. One part, and the biggest part of this, is the culture building in the organization. And when I say culture, it talks about many things. It talks about leadership team. It talks about your employee value proposition. Talks about many other things. The other bucket really is about how do we build/buy our talent, and third really is about sustaining, having practices which sustain this talent. Because to me, staffing is not an isolated strategy. When you hire someone, that's someone, if he or she goes through a great experience, will always talk good about the organization, and hence it will lead to building a diverse workforce over a period of time. Secondly, it also requires a lot of commitment and passion of leaders at all levels to push this agenda on the table. Unfortunately, most of the organizations today make it as a statement because somebody else is doing, I must also do it. And there's a lot of spurt of these activities to start happening around 8th of March when we have a symbolic, act day coming through. And of course, the third piece is really about the right culture to sustain this. Now, let me deep dive into what I mean by culture. When I talk about culture, first of all starts with itself, the presence of diverse leaders at the organization itself, at the top level, and who will focus themselves on inclusivity and diversity. For example, some of the leaders really empower others, are correlated with individuals feeling included. Some of the leaders themselves have taken upon themselves, and in my immediate teams, I would want to have a diverse workforce. And if I tell you about my experience of Vodafone in a regional headquarters or even group headquarters in London, they used to have very clarity that we must have a woman, people from unrepresented minorities as still a part of. So they were very conscious about how the whole demographic of the team is really going to come through. Second piece about culture is also about sponsorship. Is diversity inclusivity only a statement, or is really a business agenda? And if it is it really coming up for board discussions every time the management team meets together? And very importantly, if it is, what is the ambition or the agenda we have for us? Ambition really cannot be that, we also want to become a diverse organization. Yeah, that's an intent statement, but what are the three big things you're going to do? For example, some of the organizations will talk about, I am completely committed to make sure that my top echelon, that the senior management moves from a 7 to say 10% over 1 year's time, or 7 to 15% over 3 years' time. There is some commitment, some numbers should be committed on top. Overall part of my workforce needs to be this represented by women. And the whole business case comes through in all kind of businesses, whether it is telecom, whether it is retail, my current business. You will see a 40 to 50% representation of customers being diverse. Then why can't that same philosophy be in your organization, in a part of workforce as well? So it's really about what challenges is the top management willing to take on, and really what are those hard fact targets they're going to take on, which are really very passionate about. Third is really about inclusive behaviors from leaders. Are leaders themselves creating enough opportunities for professional advancement for women or for people who are underrepresented? Are they really becoming sponsors for recognizing talent from underrepresented groups themselves? Is really the third area on the culture. Fourth is that to what extent is the organization going? And typically you will see the breaking point in this journey for women really is, especially in the middle segment. As women come in, there is always a break in women's career because they have to manage many many things at the same point in time. There is a work life, there is a family life, there is a professional life on top comes through. So then obviously there are breaks for maternity, there are breaks for marriage, and there is a general bias which comes through that now women are going to maternity. They may not be as productive as they were before because they will have to look after the child. And there are a lot of biases at play. The organization which are able to make sure that the women comes back successfully and really they are set up for success after they come back after the breaks, always research has told that they always have a larger percentage of women in their higher echelons, always. And this is the breaking point. It's really some of the unconscious bias which needs to be removed from the minds of some of the male leaders, which obviously given to the fact that since woman is coming after this break, sabbatical or maternity break, she will anyway, it's assumed that she won't be giving enough time, and hence can't give her typical core role. So that's the bias needs to be removed. And again, how do we really welcome back women? How do we put them into core jobs back again and making sure that they are set up for success, really the key. So really, culture is all about accountability for higher representation of women by various methodologies, various strategies. And then really is about how do we make D&I as a business agenda and not really a statement on the wall. Second is about building and buying. How do we really make sure we attract as well as retain more women? And I have come across many biases, in my career on this front. I've been into sales, technology organizations, and one of the things which, when we started to drive this whole agenda of diversity, always a pushback used to come from businesses that women are very successful in support functions like HR and finance, but don't think they will be successful in technology or even sales. And that's the time. I'm talking about my example from Vodafone. We actually took a lot of passion with drove and made sure a lot of women are hired in the front lines also in technology. But it took a serious effort, because it would typically happen if you would push CVs of women in sales or technology at CV stage itself, it got rejected. How can women be in technology? Women can't stretch, women can't circulate, they can't go to a country market. So much of biases were at play. And then at that time, we started something very unique, which some of the companies started doing now, is something called CV masking process. That the gender of the candidate will not be known to you till the person is going to come in front of you for interviews. At the shortlisting CV stage, you won't be told any telltale signs of what is the gender of the individual who's going to come to meet you at all. Even the name and any specs of that front has been completely hidden or masked on that point of view. And we realized that, obviously we had to do some conditioning to our hiring managers, because they thought it's a confidence loser. Why are we, don't you trust us that you are asking us, you're masking this whole stuff? But we had to tell that we all play with a lot of unconscious biases in our mind, because that's how we brought up in the society. So when we did this whole piloting and then sustained it over as a project for 6 to 9 months, we realized that women as a part of our fresh hiring moved up from a 26 to 48% over a 6 to 9 months time. And that's the time when people realize that there are indeed unconscious biases which we keep in our mindsets when it comes to women to be deployed in some critical functions. Second important thing which also works is really about ahead of curve hiring. Generally, I see a lot of us run to hire women folk into these roles because of a reaction. A role gets vacant, hiring manager will say, okay, yeah, this is one role. If you can get me a woman in 2 months' time, I'll be happy to look at it. But if after 2 months you can't get it, please let me hand my way. I'm going to go and hire a male candidate. I think the trick lies in ahead of curve hiring. And as a prudent organization, you should have your buckets built in, whether it is returning women to work or there are forums in industry where you have specialized, women, you can connect with women. Continue to meet women. And if you find a good talent, don't make them wait. I would say even I have been practicing something personally, which is vacate to hire. If you find a great talent today in the market, women talent, and you find that today your existing male counterparts or others are really inferior when you compare, vacate, refresh, and get a woman on board. These are some of the strategies will work very, very well. But make sure you have pipelines established already so that whenever you have an opportunity coming through and a hiring manager is supportive, you should be able to support by making sure timely availability of candidates. Third and a very important thing is really about onboarding. And this is very closely connected with the hiring piece as well. And specifically, when organizations in sales technology really hire women as a part of the workforce. And it's a peculiar way, predominantly, traditionally, we've never seen women working in sales and upcountry, except B2B sales, but B2C, we've never seen that. Hiring is one thing, but when women go into the market, sometimes the trade, the distribution channels don't accept them because they'll say, oh, this is a very rough market, upcountry market. And that's where I think as a good culture building thing, the hiring managers, the sales leaders need to step in and make sure the women are set up for success, not only in the company, but also with the trade as well. Because it's not really about, it's really about the talent which the woman has. We've not hired because we really wanted to show higher numbers, but it's something who has got genuine good talent. But why should that person fail because of environmental factors? And that's the job of a company to make sure that they are settled well, they are inducted well, and then the trade accepts them, and then they are, contributing. So that's also equally important. The third bucket is really about sustenance. Sustenance is really about, giving, take stretching where we stopped at the culture. And there are a lot of facets to this. One is really about equitability. We all claim to be meritocratic, but when we take an honest look, and some of the areas like rewards, how many of us really, open up our distribution curves at the end of the year and say, at every layer, what is the percentage of women getting the top 2 ratings and versus the men, and similarly at the bottom 2 ratings. And in a lot of organizations, you find that we have unconsciously not looked at these, and we've deprived women, some of the talented women, the right opportunity to get into right performance grids. Similarly, when we come into the compensation exercises, what is your gender pay gap? If at the same level you have 2 people with equal kind of talent working, what is the pay gap between men and women? I think this is a good opportunity to even see that, because this is all may seem to be back-end exercises, but they give a lot of confidence booster to candidates outside, saying that these companies are taking so many steps to ensure that there's a culture check, and hence this becomes a great place to work for women. Secondly, is about how to what extent is the company really investing time and resources into unconscious bias programs. And unconscious biases are at play at all the places, whether you call it frontline, middle management, top management, they're at play. We may accept it or not, but there is so much happening. And it's not even important to have these workshops done for women, but also men as well. And which is all, and why it's important, because there is a need to eliminate all non-inclusive and non-diverse behaviors from the mind of people. And but I'm trying to say, I'll just talk by example. If you look at upcountry markets, in a sales organization, how do they use some slangs? Some slangs could not typically go well with women because they have very kind of semantic meanings. So it's only when you make people understand that, this is now a diverse workforce. This is not only men working, but you need to be conscious of what you're speaking. Then the penny drops in the, in the minds of managers. Yeah, oh yeah, this is a non-inclusive behavior I've been doing. So that's where it comes from. The third and the last piece in sustenance is really about, how much flex are we able to go in terms of our processes. And there's a diverse workforce, there's a multiple generation workforce now coming through. To what extent is the organization today practicing flex in terms of week flex, break flex, or even time flex? And a lot of organizations which really support, the workforce for sabbaticals or break flexes, allow people to work part time because of nature of jobs, and also, 4 days a week kind of. And a lot of companies have already started doing that. They always give you a better diversity and a better inclusive workforce to work with, because it gels well with certain communities of people. So these are some of the experiences sharing I wanted to do with all of you, which I practically experienced or deployed in my previous roles in other organizations. But happy to take any questions.